Good morning and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining in for today's webinar. Today we're taking a look at some tips and tricks for using RoomKeyPMS software. So the outline for today's presentation will start with some introductions. Then we'll jump right into some groupings for different tips and tricks that we'll be looking at throughout today's presentation. That includes some function key shortcuts and keyboard shortcuts, as well as using the tag manager, reporting filter or tool in RoomKey, and making multi-rate reservations. We'll also take a summary look at when you can start using all of these tools inside the RoomKey software, and then we'll wrap it up with a summary and Q&A at the end. So taking a look at our introductions for today, my name is Tasha Leclerc. I'm a trainer and implementation specialist with RoomKey. Joining me today, we'll have our Director of Customer Experience, Mr. William Tam. Now, I'll be overseeing the presentation and demonstrations in today's webinar, and William will oversee the chat and Q&A. So everyone in today's presentation, if you're joining our live presentation, you are on mute, but we do want you to participate. So if you do have any questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and click that Q&A button. You can type in your question, William will be able to answer. And if there's any questions left over at the end of our presentation, we can include those in the Q&A live presentation as well. Couple more things about today's webinar. It is being recorded. You might have heard that message at the beginning of the presentation there. The recording is made available on our support website within 24 hours. So if you're attending today's live presentation and you'd like to review the presentation, we will give you an email once that webinar is made available on our support website. Another thing, if you are attending our live presentation as well, we will have a survey available at the end. A couple of quick questions just asking about your experience and your feedback for today's webinar. And if you have any suggestions for any future webinar topics, you can answer that survey as well. Great. So let's get started with our first topic, function key shortcuts. So when you're using a keyboard or laptop that has a function key, those are the F keys that appear at the top of your keyboard, usually at the top there. We actually have some shortcuts that are built into these function key buttons that allow you to access some key features in RoomKey. Now, we do have a printable document from our support website that allows you to print off this legend, and you can actually attach it to your keyboard as pictured here. Some of our properties will do that whenever you first start using RoomKey, just to have a bit of a cue as to what you can use these function keys for. Now let's take a look at each of these function keys in a little more detail. Let me just bring this up here. There we go. So the very first function key, F1, that is the access to the property dashboard. So whenever you click F1 on your keyboard, that's going to bring up the property dashboard, regardless of which screen you're looking at in RoomKey. So it doesn't matter if you're looking at your in-house screen, your tape chart, anything like that. When you click F1, it's going to bring up the property dashboard. This is really helpful if you wanted to see a snapshot or overview of what is happening at your property in this moment. So you'll see that the date for the property dashboard appears in the top left corner, and it will say the date, the current date. You do have the ability to look at this information for any past dates, so that is a drop down available to you. You can print this as an individual report. This is also akin to our property status report available in the statistics reporting menu. So you can click the print button right at the top there. And then this property dashboard is going to give an overview, or like I said, a snapshot of the activity, the room summary inside the hotel. It'll also give you some end of day projections over to the bottom right hand side here. Now, for any one of these values, if you see a blue drop-down arrow, you can actually click on that drop-down arrow and that will generate a report for you. So this can be a really helpful reporting tool, that property dashboard access, really easily accessible through that F1 key on your keyboard. Now, the next two function keys work in tandem for the benefit of the front desk team. So if you click F2 on your keyboard, you can create a new reservation. And again, this can be done from any view screen in RoomKey. If you need to quickly make a reservation or quickly check availability, you can go ahead and click F2 and that will begin a new reservation. So just as if you were to click the new res button in RoomKey. F3, instead of making a new reservation, if you're looking to search for a reservation, F3 key is going to allow you to quickly search using the advanced search feature in RoomKey. So instead of bringing up the small search or basic search window, it's going to bring up the full advanced search, which gives you access to the search criteria on the left-hand side. So you can search by a variety of information instead of just the basic search, which is typically just reservation number or guest first name, last name type fields. With this advanced search, you can also search by a corporate name, cancellation number, and you are not required to enter a status of the reservation. So a little bit quicker access to searching for a reservation when you use the F3 key or advanced search. The next three keys are, again, focused for the front desk operations, and this is more of the check-in, check-out, and changing reservations. So if you click F4 on your keyboard while you have a reservation selected, it's going to bring up the ability to change that reservation. So this example here, we have selected the reservation for Beverly Sims, and instead of clicking the change res button or double clicking on the reservation, you can simply click F4 and that will bring up the reservation edit screen. It'll allow you to edit any details quickly for this reservation. You can change the booking information, you can change the guest info, or you can add in any of these optional tab features, things like a service, travel agent. You can add in a guest share, routing instructions, or associate a task with that reservation. The next two keys are pretty straightforward. When you have a reservation selected, instead of having to click the check-in button, you can simply click F5 on the keyboard, and that's going to allow you to check in that reservation from the arrivals screen. So on screen here, I just have an example from the arrivals, Mr. Jeff Brown. You can click F5 and that will start the check-in process. Similarly, when you are looking at your departure screen, you can quickly check out a reservation by clicking the F6 key on the keyboard. That will bring up and start the checkout process for that departure guest. Now, if you select F6 while you are looking at an in-house reservation, it will also start the checkout process, but just be mindful that if you're starting from the in-house screen, you want to make sure that the guest is actually due out. Otherwise, this would be considered an early checkout if you begin the checkout process before the guest is actually due out. Now, the next feature that we'll look at is some modules that you can access quickly from these function keys. When you're looking at a reservation, whether it's in-house, arrival, or future reservations, any of the reservations there, if you click the F7 key, it's going to bring up the profile information associated with that reservation. So in this example, I have a reservation for myself, Tasha Leclerc, and the guest happens to be in-house, but when I click F7, I can quickly see the details, the profile details for this guest without having to open up the reservation itself and click on guest info. So this is a really easy way to update some guest information. They wanted to maybe change piece of contact information here. This can also be a helpful way to review any statistics at a glance about your reservation. So when you're looking at the guest profile, or F7 on the keyboard, you'll have a summary of the guest stays. And if the guest stays with you quite regularly, this will let you know the latest information, the last time the guest stayed with you, the number of nights of that stay, and the last room number assigned for that stay. So that is summarized in the top right-hand corner of this guest profile module. The other thing too is that you do have access to things like reviewing all stays from the stays tab for this reservation, or any credit card details on file for the guest using the credit cards tab. The next module that you can access quickly from the keyboard function keys is the City Ledger module. This is helpful if you're doing any City Ledger billing or managing these City Ledger accounts. This may not be a front desk operation, but it is certainly helpful for accounting and management teams overseeing these accounts. So instead of having to access this module from the operations menu, you can click F8 on your keyboard, and that will open up the City Ledger on screen for you. Similarly, if you are working with the housekeeping department, either as a housekeeper or housekeeping management, you can quickly access the housekeeping module by clicking F9 on your keyboard. Instead of going through the operations menu, you can click F9. That'll bring up the housekeeper on screen, and that gives you access to all of your housekeeping reporting, as well as some activity reporting for the day. You'll notice those activity reports similar to what we saw on the property dashboard along the right-hand side. Skipping ahead to F11, this gives you access to your room assignment calendar. This can be beneficial if you are assigning rooms before guest arrival, maybe the day of or a few days ahead of guest arrival. When you're using this room assignment calendar, you are able to see a list of all of your room types. It's going to appear similar to the tape chart where it lists all of the room numbers and then the corresponding room type next to that room number. It'll show the days of the week starting from the current day. And then at the bottom of the screen, when you click Show Reservations, you'll see any future reservations appear at the bottom of the screen. Now, these reservations are unassigned, meaning that they have yet to be assigned a room number. I like this assignment calendar because it functions with a click and drag method. So if I wanted to assign this this reservation for Sarah LeClaire, I can click and drag that reservation up to the appropriate grid on screen. Now, because there is a definitive arrival and departure date, it will automatically snap to where it needs to be. In this case, this guest is arriving October 1st, so I would actually click and drag that reservation over to the October 1st column. This will prevent you from assigning outside of the arrival date. So if I was to try and assign it to arriving today, I would not be able to complete the click and drag. It would force me to make sure I'm selecting or dropping that reservation into the appropriate arrival date. Lastly, for our function keys, we have quick access to the inventory calendar module. This inventory calendar is going to give you an overview of your available rooms for the future dates. Now, by default, it will always show you the current date, but you can use this date drop-down menu here in the top right-hand corner to jump ahead or go back to a previous date. In this example here, I've just jumped ahead to October 1st, and this now shows me my availability for this property starting October 1st. Now, I'd like this inventory calendar. If you'd like to have a printed copy of this information, maybe at the beginning of the day, you can click F12 and then click the print button in the top right-hand corner, and that will give you an overview of your availability for the current day and 2 weeks into the future. So function key shortcuts can give you quick access to a variety of modules and functions when you're operating inside RoomKey. Now, building upon those function keys, we have those highlighted at the top. We also have use of a couple of other keyboard shortcuts that we can use in combination with other shortcuts. So what I'm talking about here is using the Alt key, the Tab key, and your directional keys on your keyboard. Now, these keys can allow you to complete certain tasks by using a combination of these keys. You can also use these in combination with the function keys at the top of the screen. Thanks. So I'm just going to jump over to our demo property here for RoomKey. And I just want to show you what I mean. With the Alt key, as soon as you click Alt on the keyboard, you're going to have access to the drop-down menu features along the top here. So bringing your eyes up to the menu items there, when I click Alt on my keyboard, you'll notice that my cursor now appears and allows me to use my direction keys to move across these menu items. If I click the down button, that's going to now expand that and allow me to now scroll through that menu item. This can be really helpful if you're accessing different modules quickly instead of having to use your mouse or using your mouse to find those directions in those different drop-down menus. Now, the other thing with using the Alt key is that you'll notice that it brings up underline under certain letters of those menu options. And that actually allows me to click the Alt button and quickly access a specific menu instead of using my directional arrows. So for example, here, if I click Alt-E, that's going to bring up my reports menu right away without having to scroll across. It's just a simple combination of Alt and the letter E button on my keyboard. Great. So just back to our presentation here, I wanted to show you a couple of examples of how this can allow you to quickly access different features and perform different functions in RoomKey. So the first thing that we'll look at with these shortcuts is how to find a reservation. Here in my demonstration, I'm going to use a combination of the function key and my direction keys as well. So I'm going to click F3, and that's going to bring up my search window. Now I can use when you bring up the search, you'll notice that it brings your cursor to the last name. This is the most common thing that people will give you whenever they're looking for a reservation. So you can type in a portion or the full last name into that field. If you want to narrow that information down a little bit more, you can click Tab, and that will advance to the next field. So you can go search by a couple of pieces of criteria there. If you click Shift and Tab at the same time, it will go in the reverse direction. I'm just going to do a quick search here for the last name Leclerc. So I'll just type in Leclerc and click Enter on my keyboard. Without having to enter any other details, this will bring me up every reservation with the last name Leclerc, and a variety of reservations do show up here. Now, the nice thing with this reservation search is, as opposed to the basic search, is that it's going to show you all reservations, regardless of reservation status. So on the right-hand side here, I can see that I have some canceled reservations and some checked out reservations historically for this guest. And if I scroll down to the bottom, I've got a couple of upcoming reservations for guests with the last name Leclerc. So really helpful tool there is used in conjunction with the advanced search feature, or the F3 key on my keyboard. Let me just go back here. So the keys that I used to quickly search for a reservation, I clicked F3, typed in the name, and hit the Enter key. Very quick to access that information. Now let's take a look at another example. Instead of looking for an existing reservation, let's look at how you can quickly check your future availability. Now, for this one, I'm going to use function keys and I'm going to use my directional keys as well. So a quick way to look for availability, I like to use the F2 key, and I'm going to have this guest asking for availability during the Christmas holiday. So when I click F2 on the keyboard, that's going to bring up a new reservation. Now you might think you might use the future or the availability calendar, but I do recommend using a new reservation because it gives you the ability to quickly make the reservation at that time without having to switch away from an availability calendar. It's going to give you not only the availability information for the guest's preferred dates, but it's also going to allow you to then make a reservation if the guest does decide they want to make that booking. So here I've got the reservation, and you'll notice that your cursor starts in the top left corner, so the client type field. This is just going to be a leisure guest, but I want to use the tab button to tab twice and move ahead to the arrival date. Now I'm going to use December as my arrival date. So that's going to be December 31st, 2024. And let's see for a 2-night stay. Great. Totally optional there. Now, as I'm making changes to these availability criteria, things like arrival, departure, occupancy information in the top left corner, you'll see that the refresh button is blinking off to the right-hand side. Now, instead of using my mouse to click on that button, you'll also notice that there's a underline under the letter R. So instead of using my mouse to click that button, I can use Alt-R, and that will refresh my calendar. So without having to touch my mouse or navigate between my availability module, I can actually see my rooms available for December 1st for 2 nights. I can see how many rooms I have available. And if the guest wants to make a booking, I can start giving them quotes for the different rate prices. So just to recap, the key strikes that I used there, I used the F2 key to begin a new reservation. I clicked tab twice, and then I entered the arrival date for the reservation. So I used the arrival date, December 31st. I used my arrow keys to advance to each one of those values. And then to refresh the calendar or to view that availability, I clicked Alt-R. Now let's try another type of question that we often get is how can you check a guest room, meaning if there is a guest in house or who is in that room, and how can you quickly post charges? So if you are posting charges, maybe you have a list from the sundry items that need to be posted to a guest account, or maybe you get a list from the restaurant saying that if they had an issue posting through their POS and the front desk needs to quickly post an item on behalf of the restaurant, we actually have a couple of quick shortcut keys that you can use using the function keys and the keyboard strikes on your keyboard. So here in my screen, I'm actually going to jump over to a different view screen. Let's just take a look at no-shows. Now, when you're posting a charge, I'm going to post a restaurant charge to my in-house guest in room 403. Now, I need to navigate over to the in-house screen. So to do that, I can click Alt Fi, and that will jump over to the in-house screen. Now you can click Tab on my keyboard, and that actually brings my cursor down to the search field at the bottom of my view screens. Now, the nice thing with the in-house screen is that they're organized by room number, so I can quickly type in the room number 403, and that will move my cursor to that room that is currently in-house. If I was to type in a different room number, let's say 302, you'll see that my cursor will move accordingly. Great. So let me type in 403. This is the guest in-house, Juanita Smith, and I want to post a charge to their account, so to their folio. To quickly post to post a charge in this example, I'm going to click Alt T, and you'll see that I have the ability to post a payment or post a charge. I'm going to go ahead and post charges. So you can click Alt T and down, or you can click Alt T and the letter O to access the charges window here. Now this charge window is going to show me the folio that I'm using, and then the charge code. So I want to click the Tab key to move to the charge code. And with this code, I can actually start typing in the code itself. I know that this is for my Lakeside Lobby Lounge. So I just typed in LK, and that brings up the code for Lakeside. Now, if you're not sure about your different codes, you can use your up and down keys to scroll through that list, and that will show the full reference information on screen as well. So I've accessed my code for my Lakeside Lobby Lounge. I click Tab, and that will advance to my amount field where I can type in the amount that I'm going to charge. In this example, it's $50. Now for this reservation, I am going to post this charge. So all I need to do is click Tab, and click OK. So that brings me to the OK exit button. Oh, sorry, just make sure that that is disappearing on screen. Now when I take a look at my folio, I can see that that has been posted. The amount of $50 for the Lakeside Lobby Lounge charge now appears on screen. Thanks. So just a recap of how I did that with just my keyboard strikes instead of having to move my mouse around the screen. I was able to access the in-house screen using Alt Fi. When I click Tab, that now allows me to search for a specific room number. Oh, that should say 403, not 401. To post the payment or to post a charge, you would click Alt TO, and that gives you access to the post charges window. When you click Tab, that then allows you to enter the charge code. In this case, it was Lakeside. You would click Tab, and then enter the amount, which in this example was $50. And then you can click Tab, and enter, and that will allow you to then post that charge. So without having to use my mouse, you can quickly access the guest room, see the guest that is in-house, and quickly post charges there. Got one more example we'll look for. Another common question that we do get is, what is the quickest way to access reporting in RoomKey? Now, if you're familiar with reporting in RoomKey, we've got lots of reports to choose from. They're mostly found here in the reporting menu. So this drop-down menu is going to have a bunch of subsections. So you can see we've got lots of reservation reporting, different occupancy reporting, forecast reporting, etc. Now, it can be a little bit cumbersome if you, part of your daily tasks is to access different reports within RoomKey. So I'm going to use an example here of the night audit reporting that we recommend. The night audit shift often prints out a series of reports at specific times during their shift. And because it can be quite cumbersome to navigate through these different reporting, the different audit reports, the different financial reports, we can use the Alt and letter keys to quickly access some key reports in RoomKey. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to start with the essential balancing report, the report that we recommend you look at every day to ensure that all of your folios are balanced. It's called essential balancing, and it's found in the financial section of the reporting menu. So you're going to click Alt E F and the letter E to access essential balance. Now, this will bring up the filter tool. So with the essential balancing report, you're looking at a date range. Usually, we'll just look at the current date. So I'll just click OK. And that will generate the report on screen here. If you do get this message, this is just letting you know that we actually haven't had any activity inside this database, just because this is a demo database, but it would generate that report. Or if you don't have any activity for the current day, it'll simply tell you that there's no records to report. So that is the financial reporting, Alt-E-F, and then the letter E to access this essential balancing report down here. Now, another common report that you might be accessing throughout the day for the essential balancing, whether it is the night audit reporting or perhaps beginning of your day reporting, could be some of the property status report or your daily operating report. So I'm going to show the daily operating report next. This is also a report found in the reports menu, so I'll click Alt-E. But instead of the financial section, it's actually found in the statistics section. So I'm going to go S, D, and then I can have the option to print this report. This is the daily operating report. So once that report generates on screen, this daily operating report, this is a breakdown of the revenue that is brought in on a daily basis. If you're already familiar with this report, it's going to show you the current date and comparison to the same date last year, as well as your month-to-date and year-to-date statistics for the same date range. So a couple different ways that you can use the Alt and letter keys to quickly access reporting. Now, I was going a little bit slow here, but I'm just going to show you a couple of those examples on screen. And like I said, these are the reports that we recommend for the night audit shift. So the night auditor is often printing out the essential balancing report, the account receivable reconciliation or ARR report. They may also be printing out the reservations with deposits, your daily balances for both in-house and city ledger accounts. Then your night auditor is often doing some reconciliation using the transaction register balance report and journal entry reports. And then they may also be printing off or accessing some of those statistical reports, like the property status report or that daily operating report we just looked at. So I will include this screenshot just to give the night auditor a little bit, just to give the night auditor access to a quicker way to access these reports, because they are very common during that night audit shift or perhaps the early morning shift the next day if you do close your front desk overnight. Thanks. So that's it for our keyboard shortcuts. You may experiment with these quite a bit if you wanted to access more reporting or more operational tasks. It's very flexible, like I said, with that using the Alt key to access the different menus along the top and your directional keys as well. So let's take a look at our next topic. This is going to take a look at the tag manager, some tips and tricks that you can use to customize the tag manager and tag management tools and filters for your reporting. If this is your first time learning about the tag manager, I'm just going to give a bit of a definition for this tool itself and what is a tag as we see it in RoomKey. A tag allows you to apply a filter to two specific reports inside RoomKey. You can apply it to a occupancy and revenue actual report. This is a statistical report that gives you a comparison between transient business and group business. This is going to show you how many reservations you have within a given date range, how much revenue is being brought through those reservations, as well as an ADR calculation for that revenue. And it gives you a comparison for the total within the database, within RoomKey, and you also gives you a comparison on the same report between transient and group, wholesaler and corporate business. Now, the exact same report can be found in the forecast menu, but instead of looking at past revenue, it's going to forecast for the future revenue. And it's the same comparison. So it's going to give you the number of reservations you have coming up within a select date range, how much revenue is expected for those reservations, and an ADR calculation. It's going to give you that comparison for the total in the hotel, as well as a comparison between transient, group, wholesaler, and corporate business. Now, before you start using the tag manager, these are permission based, and we actually have to give permission at both the property and the clerk level. So in order to grant the property permission, this is permission 2080 tag manager, you're actually going to have to give it to the property first. So if you go to system configuration, you go to the property module. Oh, this is just opening up here. Perfect. Here in the property module, you will jump over to the permissions tab for this property, and you'll see a list of selected and available permissions. So if you're granting this permission for the first time, you're going to find it in the list of available permissions in the operations menu. So you'll click that black arrow and select the permission, click the add button to move it over to the left-hand side. If I look here under my operations permission, the tag manager permission appears down at the bottom, permission 2080 tag manager. So you're going to do that for both the property here in the permissions tab in the property module, and you will also need to grant that permission to each clerk who will have access to this reporting filter. So once you've granted it to the property, you will then come to system configuration and do the same for in the clerks module for those specific clerks. Now, I recommend giving access to this permission to management and admin staff. It is not required for your front desk or housekeeping staff. So once you've granted that permission, you can then go to the operations menu and you'll have access to the tag manager module. Now here in the tag manager, here are a couple of examples of some of the types of tags that you can create. Now tags are very customizable to suit the types of business that you would like to track and filter based off of those statistic and forecasting reports. So for example, here I have an OTA tag for my online travel agents. These travel agents are created as corporate accounts in my corporates module, but instead of looking at the reporting which is individual in that module, I want to group all of that business together as a tag so that I can filter that information on my reports. So here I've created an OTA tag, or online travel agent. And then once I created that tag, here on the corporates tab, I've attached my different OTA accounts from my corporate module. So that includes booking.com, Expedia, and Expedia Prepaid. Now, it is really easy to add and remove your attached corporates. You can do so from the tab here. I would select a corporate account. I can take that away, or I can select it from the list of available corporate accounts on the right-hand side and add that in. Just make sure that any changes you make, you want to click the Post button. Now, another example of adding a tag using this tag manager, if you don't want to, if you don't have the corporate account created yet, you can actually attach the tag at the time of creating your corporate account. So let me show you that here in the corporates module. Just jump over to corporate. When you're creating a new account, you would click add. You would complete all of the contact information, the billing information, if there's any city account associated. And then what you'll notice before you click the post button to save those changes is the ability to attach a tag. And now when you click this drop-down menu, that'll give you a list of the active tags from that tag manager. So if I was creating a new online travel agent account, maybe for Agoda, I would be able to attach the OTA tag at the time of creating the account without having to go to my tag manager module separately. So really nice built-in feature that allows you a couple of different options for attaching the tag in a couple of different ways there. Let me just head back to my tag manager. So found in operations and the tag manager at the top there. Another application that you might want to use these tags for is to group business across different client types. And a good example of that is if you have any tour organizations that send you both wholesaler reservations, so they have a wholesale block that's allocated to them, and if they also send you periodically group business. So with this Jack Travel tag, I actually have a wholesale account for Jack Travel created in my wholesalers module. So I've added this Jack Travel tag to my wholesalers, and you can see that is attached here. So that means that I allocate a block of 2 or 3 rooms every day available for individual travelers, or sometimes called FIT travelers, hosted by Jack Travel. But periodically, Jack Travel will also set up tour groups, and they send a group of people to the property as well. So here under the Groups tab, I also have a couple of groups that are associated with the Jack Travel tag as well. Now, just like the corporates module, when you're setting up a wholesaler block or a group block, you have the ability to attach an existing tag. So that's what I've done here with these tour groups. Instead of having to come back into this tag manager, I can actually attach that Jack Travel tag at the same time that I'm creating the tour group. Now, Pacific Tours works the exact same way as Jack Travel. It sends individual groups. So I can see those listed here under the Groups tab, and it has a wholesale block. Now, if you also allow bookings, individual FIT bookings without a block, that would be considered corporate. You can also create a corporate account for your different tour groups as well. But by filtering out this information, it does allow you to focus in and filter those details onto your occupancy and revenue reporting for both statistics and your forecasting. Great. So to access the report and apply a tag, you would go to your reports menu. And I'm actually going to use one of our forecast reports. So this will be found in forecasts, and it's the occupancy and revenue forecast, transient versus group. when I access this report, when you have the active tag manager permissions, you'll see that you have the ability to apply a tag filter. So here I can filter by a specific tag accordingly. When you select your filter, you'll also want to make sure you're looking at your specific date range, and you do also have the option to export these details directly to a CSV file format and use that in Excel or update that information, upload that information into accounting software. Now let's take a look at a couple of examples of what these reports look like with and without tags. So the first example I have here is just that occupancy and revenue forecast report without any tags. And all of these reports are looking at forecasts for the month of October. So without any tags, my month total information is going to be summarized at the bottom of this report. It's going to let me know the total amount of all reservations. That includes group, tour, corporate and transient guests. That non-transient guests. That total appears in the first grouping. Then it will break out that total based off of corporate business, group business, and wholesale business. And each one of those totals is represented at the bottom of this report here. So that is this basic report without any of the filtering using the tag tool. This next report, I'm actually going to apply a tag, the exact same report, but this time I've applied the OTA tag. So it's going to show me still the total information, but this is going to be total for this filtered report. So this is showing me the business for my corporate accounts, all of my OTA for the month of October. What I'm expected to accommodate is a total of 12 room nights, and the average occupancy or room revenue here, the total room revenue for all of my OTAs for the month of October is $3,434. You'll notice that there is no group or wholesale revenue because I filtered that out and I'm only looking at my OTAs. Now let's take a look using that Jack Travel filter. Again, this is a tour or a travel agency that sends both wholesale FIT business as well as group business, but it does not send me any corporate business. So here I can see, again, my total for the Jack Travel tour company is a total of let's just take a look at the revenue here, is a total of $16,226. And that is broken out between my expected group revenue, which is about $8,092, and my wholesale revenue. So my FIT reservations from that wholesale block, it's about $8,134. So there is no corporate business associated with Jack Travel. It's all group blocks and wholesaler blocks. And I can see that revenue appearing here for my forecasted report for the month of October. And very similar to Jack Travel, my Pacific Tours tag is going to allow me to filter out that revenue information for just my Pacific Tour group business. That's going to include both my tour groups or group blocks as well as my wholesaler block revenue. And of course, I've got that total summarized here as well. So instead of having to go to each individual group in the group module and then print out those reports for revenue purposes and then go to the wholesaler and print out that separate report, I can actually do all of that using my tag manager filtering for this forecast report. Now, we've just been looking at the forecast report, but I do also want to remind you from the beginning of this topic that it is also available for past dates. So if you're looking at your statistical information from the reporting menu, the statistics section, we do also have the occupancy and revenue actual, which is going to allow you to look at past date ranges and apply that tag filter, just like we did with the forecasting, looking at future dates. Great. Now let's take a look at our final tips and tricks for today, and that is using multi-rate reservations. I have a quick video here. It's about a minute 30 seconds here that'll show you how to create a multi-rate reservation. In this example, we're going to have a guest that wants to book for a 3-night stay, but there is a 2-night package that they want to book for the first 2 nights of their stay. So what that is considered is a multi-rate reservation. In many cases, some other property management software would require you to create 2 separate reservations. One reservation for the first 2 nights on a package rate, and then a separate reservation for the 3rd night on the best available rate. But what you'll see here in this video is that we can actually create a multi-rate reservation where the guest is staying on a package rate for the first 2 nights, and then on the 3rd night, they have the best available rate. All on one booking without having to create 2 separate reservations. So I'm just going to click play and this will show up on screen here. Great. So starting with a new reservation, this is going to be for 3 nights. You'll select the room type and rate for this guest. And we're going to start with the best available rate. But right above this rate column, you can actually click on that 3 little dots, and that will give you the ability to customize this rate for this guest. We're going to scroll down and view the list of available rates and select that 2-day spa package. When you click that spa package, you can click Add Selected Rate. You can choose the dates that you want to apply the package for and click OK. So that's going to apply the package for the first 2 nights of the stay, but still allow you to have the default rate, the best available rate, on the 3rd night. Now you can choose a different default rate. I'm just showing that you can select that as opposed to, but whatever you've attached will appear in the picked up rates in the top right-hand corner. So the first 2 nights is the 2-day spa package, and that is reflected in turquoise here. And then the 3rd night is at the best available rate. Click OK, and that now designates this as a multi-rate reservation, shows the best available rate still as my default there. I can go ahead and book that reservation and then click the guest info tab to now complete the guest information and click OK to complete the booking. So that reservation now appears in my reservation screen in RoomKey here with the reservation details. But you'll notice that because I did select best available rate as my default rate, it does still show as a best available rate reservation. Now let me open up RoomKey and show you some of those details of how you can identify a multi-rate reservation or what it looks like while it's in-house. So I'm just going to go to my reservation screen. Oh, actually, what I'll do is pick up that reservation by rate code here. Excellent. So this is the reservation that was completed in that example video. If I double click on this reservation, this is going to allow me to see the change res features, or I could click F4 on my keyboard. It's going to let me know that this is a multi-rate reservation. So if I look at the best available, it is going to show me the best available rate here, but instead of showing me the pricing for the best available rate, this actually reflects the package pricing because we did customize that rate using the multi-rate button at the top of the checkbox column here. So instead of selecting the rate right away, you can go to the top of the column and click these three little dots, and that's going to give you access to the custom rate tool. This is, again, where you can see what has been picked up for this guest. You can see they have the 2-day spa package for the first 2 nights, and then the best available rate for the remaining night of their stay for a total of 3-night stay. The rate calendar also reflects the pricing differences between the package rate for the 1st and 2nd of October, and then the best available rate for the 3rd of October. So that reservation, when they check in, we'll be able to check them in. They'll have their package rate post automatically for the first 2 nights. And then for the 3rd night, it will drop down to the best available rate. I actually have an example of an in-house reservation that shows this automatic switch. Using this guest, Juanita Smith, you can see that they had originally booked a bed and breakfast package. If I take a look at their folio, what you'll see is the bed and breakfast package, which was posted. So that includes accommodation plus breakfast in the morning. And I can also tell that this is a package because I have the little package icon next to it as well. But then for the second night, so for tonight's stay, they are not on the package rate. And you can see here that it has defaulted to the standard room charge rate. So instead of charging for the bed and breakfast, tomorrow morning, they will not have breakfast included for their morning of their departure. They have simply been charged the room charge amount, which is slightly less than that bed and breakfast package that they booked for their first night. So instead of having to manually post a different charge, RoomKey is going to take care of that because this is considered a multi-rate reservation. I can also review that information if I double click on the reservation or click change stay. Again, I have the multi-rate notification in the top right-hand corner. And when I take a look at the rate information, I can click on the 3 little dots at the top of that column to access the custom rate fields and see that they have the, this should say package rate and then best available rate. Great. So using that multi-rate tool allows you to automatically fluctuate between the different types of rate plans. Now, one thing that I would like to just bring your attention to is that when you're setting up a multi-rate reservation, if the guest qualifies as a different client type, meaning, for example, if the guest is staying on corporate business for 2 nights and then staying on leisure or non-corporate business for the next 2 nights, that will still need to be 2 separate reservations because the client type is different in those cases. So our multi-rate functionality does not allow you to change the client type. It simply allows you to create or select from different rates. So a corporate guest would still need to have their own corporate booking and then a separate leisure booking if they're extending their stay as outside of that corporate business. And that's to ensure that your reporting remains consistent for any of your client type reporting that you may do from the admin side of things. Great. So just jumping back to our presentation here, all of these features are available to use right away. All of them come standard with RoomKey software. So if you haven't taken a look at your multi-rate or your function keys or your tag manager, you can definitely check that out right away. Just keep in mind with that tag manager, there is a permission that is required. I'm just going to take a look at our summary. We've taken a look at the function key shortcuts as well as keyboard shortcuts, so kind of combination of those different shortcuts that can kind of shorten up some of those quick functions or accessing reports in RoomKey. Looked at the tag manager that allows you to filter your statistical and forecasting reports, depending on the type of business that you wanted to report on. And we also took a look at the multi-rate reservation tool available for guests that are staying maybe across packages or across different rate types. Just going to open up the floor to see if there's any outstanding questions. Okay, it looks like there are no more outstanding questions. So I'm going to go ahead and close up our webinar for today. Thank you everyone for joining in. We do appreciate your participation and any feedback you're able to provide on those webinar surveys. And I look forward to chatting with you in our next webinar presentation next month. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.